You're listening to a CNA podcast.
Blue skies. How good are they? When we get bluebell days, we take them for granted a lot of the time. And in many cities around the world, they're all but unheard of because of air pollution. Today, we're finding out which cities are doing the best and the worst at dealing with a big issue. Hi, and welcome to Climate Conversations. I'm Jack Board, Liling Tan, back again for more. How are you?
Hi, Jack. I'm good. How are you? What's a bluebell day, though? Is that an Aussie thing?
No, I don't think so. Isn't it just like when the sky's blue?
I've never heard
like
of
it's
that.
really blue, like isn't a bluebell a flower?
Yes, it is. Well, it does conjure up nice, clear skies.
Well, something to learn right at the top of the podcast for you.
That's right.
You could bust that out now in a Singaporean context. Now, Liling, which city have you lived in around the world that's had the best air, do you think? And which do you think's had the worst?
Cities
You've
I've
been around
lived
the
in,
world?
Cities I've lived in, they've all been really gross in terms of air quality. Although, I lived for a while in Boston. I think because it's a smaller city and we were more in like a college area, I think it was better. But in New York City where I lived, it was always skanky and filthy and stinky. It's like the perpetual stink that descends on the city. But yeah, what about you? What city?
Best air, I can't go past Sydney. Sydney is normally pretty good, apart from bushfire season when some smoke rolls in and the occasional desert storm when the red sands kind of take over the city, which is pretty rare, but generally pretty great air in Sydney. The worst air has to be here, has to be Bangkok, I think.
Yeah.
Phnom Penh could have been worse when I lived in Cambodia, but of course there are no official air monitoring stations there. So you'd have these days where the air looked really bad. You could smell it, you could see it.
Yeah.
And the government would say, there's no air pollution at all. There was always a local joke that the one air monitoring reader they used to put right on the Mekong River so that you'd get all this wind from the river. And then it would make the air look really good, even though the real situation was much worse.
Oh, all right.
Little tricks.
Well, Singapore isn't too bad, I must say. It's definitely a lot better than years ago when I was growing up here. But, there's still a lot of traffic and the air conditioning vents and the exhaust.
A lot of shipping.
Yeah,
shipping is the main culprit, isn't it?
Even on days when there are clear skies, it doesn't feel like it's a bluebell day.
Okay, touche. All right, let's get straight into the quiz. And it is about this topic today, air pollution. Liling, I'm going to give you some of the 10 most polluted countries in the world from last year in terms of air quality. I want you to tell me which one was the worst. So we've got some doozies here. A is India. B is Chad. C is the Democratic Republic of Congo, and D is Pakistan. And you can have some extra points if you want to put them in order as well, but I know you get frazzled by having to do too many rankings, so...
You're making me work so hard.
Okay, and I want the answer right now, please, because we're about to get right into
Mr.
our main
Impatient.
story chat.
Okay. So
which do you think has the worst air pollution last year?
it's a close tie, but I think Pakistan is ahead this year, is slightly worse than India in terms of air quality. So I'm going to put Pakistan first and then India. And the Democratic Republic of the Congo, it's got Kinshasa. It's very populated. I'm going to go with DRC and then Chad.
Okay, interesting. I can tell you that the country that had the worst air last year was Chad.
Really?
Interesting. Yeah, Chad had the worst air in the world. Second place was actually Bangladesh. I didn't include that, but then Pakistan. You're right.
You can't bring Bangladesh in right now.
Sorry, okay.
It wasn't one of the options. I would have gone for Bangladesh.
Chad, and then Pakistan, and then the DRC, and India had the best of those four countries. Still the fifth worst in the world. So okay.
Wow.
But India was the winner of that little contest that we've created.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good to know.
Good job. Now for our main story this week. So there you have it. Chad was the country experiencing some of the worst air quality in 2024. And that's according to a new report from Swiss technology company IQ Air. But there were some interesting findings as well about Southeast Asia too. While things might not have been looking too clear over in N'Djamena, the Chad capital for those playing at home, in N'Djamena.
N'Djamena.
N'Djamena, yeah. While things might not be looking too clear over in...
You can do this. Come on, Jack. You can do it. N'Djamena.
While things might not have been looking too clear over in N'Djamena... While things might not have been looking too clear over in N'Djamena...
Just say the Chad capital.
Okay. While things might not have been looking too clear over in N'Djamena, the Chad capital for those playing at home, in our region, there's some positive news. Every country in Southeast Asia recorded improved slight air pollution levels, except for one, sorry, Philippines, you're the odd one out this year. Still, there are some other caveats. None of the 392 cities in Southeast Asia in this report met World Health Organization air pollution guidelines. And Indonesia, Laos, Vietnam were among the 25 most polluted countries, Indonesia having the worst air in the region.
Wow.
A little bonus quiz for you, Liling. Which country do you think had the best air in Southeast Asia, do you think?
I'm going to guess Vietnam.
Yeah, I just said that Vietnam was among those.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I was thinking, are there really 392 cities in Southeast Asia? That's what I was fixated on. Okay, so not Vietnam, Singapore. That's good.
Singapore. So Malaysia, though, saw the largest reduction over the past year. Good news, even though most of its air improvement was because of transboundary haze from Indonesia not being as bad as previously. Now, we should note that Southeast Asia is hardly alone in having unsafe air. The report found that more than 90% of the countries and regions monitored had PM 2.5 levels higher than the annual WHO recommendations. So, why do we care about these air pollution levels? Harbinger of doom, Liling Tan, do tell us.
Well, because you can die from breathing in bad air. It is deadly. Prolonged exposure can kill you. So, air pollution is the second leading global risk factor for death, and the second leading risk factor for deaths among children under 5 years old. And that follows malnutrition. Of course, all of this is based on information from the World Health Organization. Now, exposure
surprising.
For you and I, we cover air pollution a lot. So this isn't entirely new, but it is surprising for a lot of people because people don't realize that it is associated with a lot of the diseases and ailments that people have,
children,
right?
Yeah,
that children have, yeah. So a lot of this has to do with PM 2.5, which are those tiny, tiny particles that come from sources like industry emissions, power generation, vehicles, and open burning can contribute to or worsen multiple health conditions, including asthma, cancer, stroke, and of course, respiratory and lung diseases. Now, these microparticles, PM 2.5, can get deep inside the lungs where they can stick around for long periods of time or pass into the bloodstream unfiltered. This is especially bad for pregnant women and young children and babies. Exposure for them can lead to brain and developmental disorders, including autism spectrum disorders.
Pretty scary considering that we've just learned that none of the cities in our region have air standards that match what WHO says is safe. And so many symptoms. Yeah. But then also trying to calculate the number of deaths that are associated with air pollution is pretty difficult, isn't it?
It is. Well, the WHO has estimated that some 7 million preventable deaths occur each year as a result of air pollution, and countless others have their quality of life impacted. It is an area where a lack of data remains. Many parts of the world still don't have reliable air monitoring systems. One estimate suggests that most of the world, and I mean nearly a whopping 99% of the world, breathe air that exceeds the WHO air quality limits. Another difficulty in determining the exact death toll is that bad air causes so many different diseases that it's really difficult to know for sure what ailment is directly caused by air pollution. Now, there are also differences in the impact from different types of pollution people are exposed to. For example, heavy metals or emissions caused by burning fossil fuels would be more harmful than, say, agricultural emissions. Regardless, it's still a staggering number.
Yeah, it really is. Then if we look at Southeast Asia again, this report digs into the challenges that remain around this lack of air monitoring that you just brought up. And some 44% of cities in this region actually don't have any government monitoring stations. So Cambodia doesn't have any, for example. Thailand, interestingly, has the most. We've spoken about the air challenges here quite a lot. It's a big ongoing challenge for the government. I think it's interesting to zoom down to Indonesia, though, the most polluted country, as we said. It's also home to the 3 most polluted cities in the region, South Tangerang and Tangerang, which are cities kind of on the western flank of Jakarta, as well as Cikarang. Right?
Why do you do this to yourself?
I looked this up how to say it, as well as Cikarang, which is also in West Java. The issues that Indonesia face link back to something we speak about often as well, the power sector. In a rapidly growing and urbanizing country, coal, of course, is the major source of power. We know how polluting it is. The report specifically also talks about nickel processing, which is part of the electric vehicle and renewable energy cycle, the chains of production. That's driving up energy use, which then also contributes to more coal and more air pollution, a massive public health burden, and so on. So we can note that the air did improve across Indonesia last year, but that was probably because of the easing of El Nino, which meant there were fewer fires and burning. So that helped.
Okay. Well, on that positive note, Mr. Positivity, why don't you tell us which city in the region has the cleanest air? I know you're just dying to tell us, Jack.
Drum roll, you might be shocked it's also in Indonesia. So there you go, like a bit of a variance between the best and the worst.
But Indonesia's huge, so.
It is. So the cleanest city, according to the report, was Batu Licin in South Kalimantan, just a little north of there. Balikpapan also doing pretty well. So, all right. Miss Doom and Gloom, your turn to be positive. Can you tell us about what are some of the solutions that could help us breathe a little easier?
Well, the general idea is for governments to heed the recommendations from the global health authorities, right? Integrate WHO air quality guidelines into future standards, commit to decarbonization, the green transition, more clean energy in public transport, also control wildfires, and also prevent burning and better management of forests as well.
That's a big factor across the whole region, not just Indonesia and Thailand as well. Being able to prevent burning has a major impact on the quality of the air that we breathe. The report then kind of also includes helpful advice for us as regular people. We're often contending with bad air outside. You might be wondering what to do about it. And sometimes it feels a bit helpless, right? Some of their precautions are pretty self-explanatory, I guess, in terms of exposure. So, of course, you can have an app that shows you real-time air quality levels. I have that. I'm sure you have that as well. No, you don't have that.
But I will get
There you go. There's some very helpful advice for you to take a look at.
Thank you, Jack.
I think Singapore's pretty good at informing the public when the air is bad. But yeah, I look at that on a near daily basis. See how the air is outside. Of course, wearing a mask outdoors when the air is bad, limiting your outside activity, and having air filtration devices in your house or workplace. I don't know if you do that, but I run an air filter in my bedroom every night. Don't have one in my office, so
maybe it's time to get one.
Maybe they get sold out here.
Really?
Like as soon as the air is bad for a few days, you cannot find one.
Yeah, but you have it so much worse there in Bangkok than we do here in Singapore too. I think it's really a part of your way of life there already.
Also, all of this, of course, can help push people to be clean air advocates, and of course, make some of those personal choices that limit your personal carbon footprint as well.
All right. Well, I hope you guys are not panicking yet. But if you are, take a deep breath and, oh, wait, don't.
All right. That wraps up Climate Conversations for this week. Thank you for listening. Do come and connect with us. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next week then, I'm Liling Tan.
And I'm Jack Board. Thanks as always to the team that put together this podcast, Sayer Wynn, Tiffany Ung, Janani Jahari, and Crispina Roberts.